Oh, what is going on, everyone? We are not back on the water, but we are going to be making another custom bait to get us back on the water. Earlier last year, I believe, I threw my custom bluegill pattern crankbait against a tree and it snapped the bill right off. You can see, yeah. So, I'm going to be downsizing. Most of my crankbaits are a little large. I noticed, although I'm catching bigger fish, I would like to catch a lot of fish. So I'm going to be making something much, much smaller here. This is the color scheme I'll be going with here. Whenever I did this first one, I did not have an airbrush. So now I have an airbrush, so I'm going to try to get a little more detailed with this. So first steps, always to, have something drawn out. So I've had this little block sitting for quite a while. It's actually 2 pieces of cedar from a fence post that I just glued together. So this guy's gonna be much rounder. Most of my crankbaits are flat-sided. So, gonna get this shape cut out on the bandsaw, and then we'll get to actually shaping the bait. So I have the blank cut out. Always try and cut this notch out before you start rounding out the edges. It makes life a lot easier. So now I'm going to come back and bevel these edges. Now I've seen a lot of people use X-Acto knives or some sort of blade, but I've actually found it's easier if you just throw it on a sanding belt around the edges and just kind of eyeball it. With some lines to guide you, it's a lot easier. So. Alright, so we've got these edges smoothed out a bit. Now I've always found it difficult to get into here. I end up just using some sort of Sharpie or something small enough, cover it with a nice thick piece of sandpaper and grind down, so that's what I'll do for these lines to get them to where I need them. Alright, again, here is the part I'm trying to sand down. I'm going to use this. This is a hammer. So I'm just going to run this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it's sanded down. Out pretty good. Small little ridge right here I'm going to take down with hand sanding, but gotta be resourceful with tools you got laying around. Because this was glued together by 2 of the same sized pieces of cedar, it's going to make finding middle extremely easy. It's obviously going to be where it was glued up, so I'm going to have to round out the nose and then bring the tail down. So I'm just going to draw out a quick shape. It's about a 2-inch bait, so here's the rough shape. We're gonna chop off the edges and make it round. Alright, you can see it's starting to take shape a little more round, like a normal crankbait. At some point you gotta get off the machines and start hand sanding, so I'm gonna switch over to the vise and start hand sanding this. This could get kind of difficult because there's not a lot for this vise to hold on to, so there's gonna be a lot of taking out, flipping, maybe even a lot of hand sanding. I like using this cedar because, one, it's extremely cheap. You can buy a Picket for like $2 maybe, and that's like an 8-foot by 6-inch piece. So I mean, you could in theory make a lifespan of baits out of that. Another good thing is it's really buoyant, so it makes a pretty good crankbait, meaning it sinks pretty, or sorry, it rises pretty quick after you quit cranking it down. Alright, so yeah, you guys basically get the idea. I'm gonna be sitting here sanding for another hour. Spent a good amount of time getting this bad boy square enough for me. So the next step is to make your lip and get your hardware drills and weight centered and drilled. So I'm going to be using this piece of Lexan, and then I kind of just eyeball out what shape I want. This is going to be a very wide bill, so just going to get this kind of mocked up right now. Right, that looks good. Gonna take this over to the bandsaw real quick and cut this out. Got the lip all cut out to my liking. Looks pretty solid. So now what I'm gonna do, I need to drill hardware holes the butt end, put the weight and the front hook here, and then I'll need to super glue this in. So I'm gonna get the hardware holes marked off real quick. Alright, we'll drill those out. This bit's gonna be a bit nerve-wracking, so I've gotta go through the tiniest bit of wood to put this tail hardware in. That one fit in nicely. So that one fit in quite nice. Next I'm going to move to this bit right here. This is going to be the lead hole. Alright, looks like the lead hole is deep enough. I always like to drill it deeper than necessary. It's easy to take lead out once you get it in. And then I'm actually going to screw this nose hook in whenever I put the bill in. Got her all drilled out, so I'm going to go ahead and put the hardware, super glue that hardware in there. And then we're going to encapsulate it in lead. It's getting kind of dark, so I'm going to come back tomorrow when we got some more light, and we'll get this thing finished up. Just to let you guys know, to this stage, it's only taken about 2 hours or so. So pretty easy to make yourself a blank that works pretty well. Alright, got the weight in and sanded down. I'm going to come back with one more coat of super glue, gluing in the lip and then a final seal on this wood. Then I'm going to sand it down and primer it with some white. So I'm going to go ahead and get the bill glued in, and then the final hardware. Also, I got to screw that in here and glue that in. So let me get this glued up real quick. Alright, once this glues up, put one more coat on the exterior. We'll come back once we have this glued up nice and hard. So off camera, I finished up all the last details. Again, I just put this screw hook in and then drilled out the spots for the eyeballs. So now this is actually ready for paint. I'm going to mask off the bill and then start my paint scheme. I'm going to hit the underbelly with some orange. Right, so I know I missed the last bits of putting this together. It looks like my camera must have malfunctioned or something. So I'm just going to show you the finished product. I basically just did a little bit of detail work, covered in clear coat, which I used an old surfboard epoxy resin, which works out really well and comes out really hard. Here's the finished product. I think it came out pretty good. It is a lot lighter than my other ones, and it does have a tighter wobble than all my other ones. I made the bill a little bit different, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that this weekend, and be on the lookout for that video, because if I catch anything special I might be giving it away. So thanks for watching, we'll see you on the next one.